Page 44, always together. At the top, they talk about a ballad. A ballad is a type of music. Generally speaking, a ballad is simply a story, a musical story, and a lot of times a ballad will have words to it that tell a story as it goes on, but it doesn't have to. Like in this one, there's no words. Well, what happens is you simply supply your own story. What is the music? Let in your imagination, you come up with a story. And they tell you that it's a slow piece with a beautiful melody. Yeah, the beautiful melody is usually there, and it could be more than one. Slow, yeah, it might be sort of slow, but it could have fast parts in it. Generally, I mean, it doesn't always have to be the same. This is narrowing a ballad down. There's a lot of different kinds of ballads. There are fast ballads too, by the way. You'll find them. But those ballads will have words to them, and you just listen to the words and you follow along on the story on those. But for this one, this is a recital piece. So this is a piece where you can go ahead and learn it, and memorize it, and have it ready to go, add it to your repertoire. So when people want to hear you play, this is something that they would enjoy hearing. We'll talk about a few things, starting with the right hand. At the beginning, watch the rhythm. Hopefully dotted rhythms are coming. If they're not, please go back into book 1 of whatever book you're in and find those dotted rhythms and go over them again and again until you get them. Simply a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and counting here. So for the first measure, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And the dotted rhythms in this piece are pretty much the same way throughout. Watch the fingering. It's okay. Not great. I mean, take a look at the second line. First two measures there on page 44 in the right hand. Your C with a thumb. And then this fingering going up is awkward. But so is most any other fingering coming along. And I'll talk more about it when we get to the pedal. But it's here. And a 1, 2. And a 1, 3. 2, 4. And then a 2, 5. The melody's the top note. That's what we want. We figure that legato. The other note's harmony, and okay, you want to hear it, but it's not as important to have it legato. Now, if you can, if your technique is there, bring out that top note. Play the C, but bring out the E. The idea is, I use weight control when playing, so I simply put a little more weight on that top. You know, I'm favoring the top notes by putting more weight on them. If you would practice that actually is not that difficult to do once you get the hang of it, but then I guess nothing is that difficult to do once you get the hang of it, so I didn't really make a lot of sense there, did I? It sounded good in my head, though. Go over to page 45. You're starting out that first line with 1, 3, and it's okay. And when you get over to the third measure, it's going to be 1, 2 for the first half note, and then a 1, 3, and then a 1, 3. You can, if you want, instead of that 1, 3, you can play that 2, 3. Because in the next measure, you have that D coming up, and having a 2 on the E makes it easier to get to the D. Don't have to, but you can decide how you want to do that. Second line on page 45 is 2, 4, then a 1, 4, and a 1, 4 again. Hold that E flat down, it's a whole note. And then a 1, 3, and then a 1, 2. Again, it's the melody that we're protecting here, because that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear, and that's what we're fingering it so we can feel that melody. And then down to the bottom, last line on page 45. First measure we've had before. Second measure, now look at this. It's a 2, 5, and then a 4. Well, the G's a quarter note, you're not going to hold it down. So the 4 is by itself because you need the 5th finger for the next measure. I would put a third finger on the B and then a 1-4 on the, or a 1-5, either one for the last measure. It's up to you. Just connect the melody with the fingers. Left hand. Follow their fingering. Again, they got some awkward stuff in here, but sometimes piano playing is a little awkward. Actually, if you work on it, it's only awkward for a while, and then it gets less awkward. At the beginning, second finger on the A, second measure, and then cross the thumb under. Put you in position to go on. Last measure, the first line, you have a third finger on the G sharp. Then bring the thumb under, way down. This is a stretch, but it's an important stretch you learn to do because it's used a lot in piano. This, again, that tremolo exercise, I do it with the arpeggios, would help. You just go back and forth between them for a while. Don't tense up and get cramps or nothing. Just stay loose and relaxed. Last line on page 44, in the left hand, the first two measures are fine. Now they're saying for the third measure you can do a 2-1, then cross over and do a 2-1 again when you're in position. I'm saying it's between phrases. If you want, you can lift the hand up because you're going to lift the right hand up anyway. On the second measure with the 3, you can lift the hand up and use fourth finger for the next note. And then you're in position, you don't have to cross over the thumb. Look on page 45, the last two measures of the second line. We have a 3-1, it's an E flat G. And the next measure, it's a D flat F. And then you're okay to go on. I'm just pointing out the notes because they're a little tricky. That should just about do it for the left hand. That last note in the piece at the bottom, I'm on page 45, the C. I'm going to hold that 4 counts because I'm going to be playing with a metronome. I just double it. Now the phrasing. The phrasing in this piece is in the right hand. There's no phrasing marked for the left hand. So you pretty much just play the left hand legato for the most part. Sometimes you'll find that you'll lift the left hand with the right hand to reinforce the phrasing, and a lot of times you won't. For instance, in this first line, the phrasing in the right hand, and then you'll lift the up and then back down between the phrases. The left hand has a half note staying down. There's no break in the left hand. So just a little up and down between each phrase so we get a little bit of silence in the right hand. Now, let's talk about the pedaling. I got some things to say about this pedaling. First off, if you're kind of struggling with this and you're having to work really hard to learn it, then forget what I'm going to say about pedaling. Just pedal it the way they're saying to. But if you're getting it pretty decent, then I would encourage you to think about the pedaling I'm going to suggest, because it's a little more involved, a little more difficult than what they're suggesting, but I think it produces a better sound. It takes out a lot of the blurriness and fuzziness in the sound. Now at the beginning, they're saying pedal the first two measures all the way across. If I do that, this is what I get. I don't like that. I think it's blurry. So what I'm going to suggest is we pedal it at the bar line. Right after I play the first notes in the second measure, I lift the pedal up and put it back down. Then I'm going to lift the pedal up right after I play the G in the left hand. Like so. This way I'm sure to get a break in the right hand so I can hear the phrase. And then same thing with the third and fourth measures of the first line. I'm going to pedal it, change the pedal at the bar line. I'm going to lift it up when I play the G sharp. Now I'm going to lift the right hand up so I get a break in the sound. I'm going to play the left hand legato here, and then in the next measure, for the second line on the first two measures, I'm going to change the pedal every 2 beats because the harmony's changing and I want it's blurry. So I do it this way. Now Now they're saying just pedal it for the first 2 beats of the first measure, and then don't pedal it again to the 3rd measure. Well, I can't really connect these. I can't connect these very well with the fingers. I need some help here, so I'm going to use the pedal. Now in the 3rd measure, I'm not going to pedal that measure because this, if I pedal it, yuck, so I'm not pedaling the 3rd measure. But in the last measure, I'm going to pedal it with each 2 beats. And then at the end of the 2nd line, I'll lift the pedal up with the hands so I get a little bit of silence because we're at the end of a phrase. You can lift both hands up if you want to get complete silence. You can lift the left hand or leave the left hand down if you want and still play it legato. But the right hand, you sure want to break in the sound for the phrases. So to do the last measure of the 2nd line going into the 3rd line, it's this. 3rd line's like the 1st line, no big deal. The 4th line, again, I'm going to pedal it every 2 beats on the 1st measure. You don't need to pedal the 2nd measure. You could if you wanted to, no big deal. Just make sure we're going to break in the sound before we go to the 3rd measure. And again, you have a choice. You don't have to pedal the last 2 measures at all in page 44. Or you can pedal it every 2 beats. Pedal it with the half notes in the left hand. But when you get to the end of the line, make sure the pedal comes up with the right hand because we want to break in the sound in the right hand. So here, you don't need a break in the left hand, just the right hand, it's the phrase. In page 45, 1st line, 2nd measure, I'm going to pedal it with the left hand, half notes, every 2 beats. And again, I'm going to lift the pedal up with the right hand at the end of the 1st line because it's at the end of a phrase. I want some silence. 2nd line, 2nd measure, play the pedal with the half notes in the left hand. Change it every 2 beats. End of the 2nd line, again, it's the end of a phrase. We want to hear some silence in the right hand. Etc. And the rest of it you can do the same way. Last line here. You can actually pedal it just like they're telling you to. Just the last line's fine the way it is, no big deal. And that's my suggestions on pedaling. You'd have to take a pencil and mark in these pedaling things and go over them and experiment and do you like the sound the way it is. But if it's too complicated for you, then forget it. Just do what they're telling you to do. Pedal comes last. You learn it first, get everything all working, and then you add the complexity of the pedal. I'd like to play this with you, slowly. Now it's a slow piece anyway. I don't know how slow. You have to decide how slow. But let's play it together really, really slow. I'll give us 4 counts since it's in 4/4 time. So your right hand's here, left hand's here, and here we go. Foot's on the pedal. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 off. I don't know how fast this should go. I've never heard a recording of it. I don't know if there's recordings of it available. But to give you an idea how I think it might go is something like this. Just don't copy me exactly, but I'll just give you an idea.